Shadow Tower Abyss is a dungeon crawling and RPG role-playing game that was developed for the PlayStation 2 by From Software that was released in 2003 in Japan, and it is a sequel to the original Shadow Tower game that saw a release back in 1998 on the PlayStation 1. The game continues on the premise from the story laid on in the first game, with the return of many familiar non-character players, following the main protagonist as an explorer in search of a unique artifact, but quickly finds himself being lost and overwhelmed by his surroundings once stranded on the island, close to the Citadel from the first game. Taking a lot of inspiration from the gameplay mechanics and the visual style of the original PS1 game, Shadow Tower Abyss would utilise a lot of the PS2 aesthetics and powerful processing abilities of the console to create a better graphical experience compared to that of the original. That also utilises various different elements and upgrades everything from the use of powers, abilities, weapons, with a more intricate control system compared to that of the original, as many games that were released on the PS1 back in the day usually always had like tank based or very clunky control systems that presented quite a challenge for many players wanting to get into these type of games. The Shadow Tower series was also created from the same developers that also created the Kingsfield series on the original PlayStation, and Kingsfield would also see a sequel on the PS2 also. And all of these type of games all have a lot of common elements, as they're all RPG based dungeon crawlers that use a lot of similar ideas and game mechanics, even the same game engines to develop the games, just with a different story plot and different environments. But if you've played the first game in the series, you will understand and know that these type of games are quite difficult to play. They're not easy to pick up and play at all. A lot of the elements in these games are more catered towards more hardcore RPG style players, what would relate to a lot of players that you would see playing games very similar to the likes of Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, amongst many other difficult action RPG style games that you see on modern consoles and systems today. And a lot of those modern iterations took a lot of inspiration primarily from games like the Shadow Tower and Kingsfield series due to their difficult nature, as it would require someone that was persistent and that was literally hardcore with their gaming to really have any sort of possibility to be able to play these games. Even looking back on my own experience playing them, I played the original Shadow Tower and I played some of the Kingsfield games, and at the time when I was playing them, I will admit they weren't my type of game because they were so difficult to just pick up and play. For an absolute beginner, they're definitely not something that you should really pick up because they're too difficult overall. It's hard to really know what to do, and then you had to mix up with the clunky controls that only added to the frustration. But in fairness, with Shadow Tower Abyss, they have rectified that somewhat, but even at that, these dungeon crawling games, I found in my own personal experience, still do be very, very clunky in terms of the controls. Now I know they've updated them with modern game systems that are more user friendly to most gamers, but these old type of games, they are old school. Seriously, as there's no room for error, and like I said, only extreme players will really get the benefit out of them. If you're just a casual player or if you're an absolute beginner, you won't get much out of this. It will just frustrate you, and what will happen is you'll either just pack the game away or sell it on. You won't even bother playing it because it'll just drive you crazy, because they are extremely difficult, because a lot of the ideals around the game revolve around usually like instant and permadeaths. So once you lose all of your health, which will happen very quickly in the game, as it only takes maybe 1 to 2 hits in most cases depending on the enemies that you're fighting in order to wipe you out, and you'll lose all your progress unless you've reached a save point in between. So you have to be very, very careful and strategic in how you place attacks, and more often than not you will end up just running away and avoiding enemies. But there are certain points in the game, especially in more narrower caves and hallways, you won't be able to avoid certain enemies, so you have to engage in combat to proceed. But even with that, if you're not sure what you're doing and you don't use the right strategies, you'll be wiped out in an instant. Again, these games are very difficult at their core, but even aside from that, they do have a lot of very cool features for those that are willing to sit down and play them and that have the mindset and the mentality to play them. There is a lot of cool upgrade features and progress features in the game with some really cool story arcs and missions to complete, where you'll meet plenty of different types of characters along the way that will help you to progress the story, where you can do missions for them, unlock new weapons, features, armor and upgradable elements that'll help you to get stronger as you progress. Very similar to what you see in modern games, very like Dark Souls and Demon Souls even today. So you could essentially say that all of those games are technically spiritual successors to the likes of Shadow Tower and even the Kingsfield series. And like the first game, Shadow Tower Abyss is played entirely from a first person perspective that requires you to search through and navigate through many catacombs, walkways and different types of hallways to ascend the tower to acquire various items that you need to progress further into the game. The game generally got favourable scores in Japan when it was released, as it combined many of the unique elements from the original game but also expanded on it in more intricate ways. And the fact is that it uses the power of the PlayStation 2 to its maximum effect to help expand on a lot of the game's ideologies. The one thing that wasn't in the game compared to the original was the addition of a multiplayer feature, so that was taken away in favour of adding additional elements instead, which to some players they might find annoying, but in some ways players that really got the most out of it would benefit from a lot of these additional features that were added in instead. Initially when the game was being developed, there was an English version that was scheduled to be released but was later cancelled. But in recent years, fans have managed to create a fan translation in English for the game that you can find online. So at least now you can gain access to the entirety of the story so that you can get a better understanding, so you don't have to worry about the language barrier when you want to play the game. But even though this is an RPG game at its heart, it uses a lot of dark elements that are reflective of many survival horror games that would also have been popular on the PlayStation 1 and even the PlayStation 2 during that time. And it's one of those unique games that manages to combine those elements to a very good effect. But again, just it's difficult, that's all I'm going to say. It's not the easiest game to pick up and play. Mind you, from having spent time playing it myself, even with recording this video, yes, the controls in some cases can be clunky, but I found the game generally easier to pick up and play compared to that of the original game on the PS1 and even any of the Kingsfield series of games. And you were able to take more damage even with little to no armor from enemies, and you had the addition of being able to have access to a gun, which made it easier to dispatch enemies from a distance. Again, it's just getting used to the clunky control system, but once you begin to get used to it and master it, you will be able to get some decent results from the game. But it really just depends on your own experience and play style if these are the type of games that you do generally play. If not, it will take you a little bit longer just to really get into the whole feel and aspect of the game and what's on offer. But it is one of those unique games if you genuinely are serious about playing these type of unique RPG or dungeon crawler games. Even if you're a fan of the likes of Dark Souls, Elden Ring, amongst those other types of games, and you want to play something from an older generation or period, then Shadow Tower Abyss would be one of those games that you really should check out. And the fact is that there's an English translation available online will give you even more reasons to understand the premise of the story. So I would love to know your thoughts on Shadow Tower Abyss for the PS2 and what you think of it. Did you manage to play it yourself? And if so, what stories or experiences do you have of the game? Did you find it as frustrating to play as I did, or do you genuinely enjoy these type of dungeon crawling RPG style games? I'd love to hear what experiences you have of the game, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around games similar to Shadow Tower Abyss among many of the other games that were on offer on the PS2, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be updated when future videos are released. And in the meantime, if you would like to see other content on the channel that cover games similar to Shadow Tower Abyss, then you can check out the playlist here on screen to see more of those games in action. And I will see you all in the next one.